Vladimir Putin has briefed President Cyril Ramaphosa on his high-stakes meeting with US President Donald Trump, a conversation that places South Africa in the slipstream of fast-moving diplomacy over the war in Ukraine and a shifting world order. The presidency said the call happened on Monday, August 18, 2025. Putin conveyed satisfaction with how his talks with Trump unfolded, while Ramaphosa welcomed the update and stressed the need for genuine compromise to secure a durable peace. Both leaders agreed to keep lines of communication open and deepen cooperation on areas of mutual interest. This briefing follows the Alaska encounter between Trump and Putin, an event that dominated headlines because it could unlock or upend paths toward ending the war. Pretoria's readout underscored that South Africa was included among partners Moscow contacted after the talks. The signal is that South Africa is expected to play more than a bystander role in whatever comes next. Washington has moved quickly with follow-ups. Trump said he is arranging a direct meeting between Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, with European leaders kept in the loop. Moscow, while endorsing continued talks, stopped short of committing to a trilateral session in the same room, an early reminder that choreography can be as contentious as substance. Even so, momentum is toward fresh higher-level contact, and any breakthrough would echo from Brussels to Pretoria. For Ramaphosa, this is both validation and test. It validates his long-standing push for a negotiated settlement and South Africa's insistence on dialogue and non-alignment. It also tests whether being briefed translates into real influence. To convert access into impact, Pretoria must do more than issue statements. It must offer useful channels, credible guarantees, and practical ideas that narrow the gap between grand pronouncements and verifiable steps on the ground. The presidency's language about the need for compromise will be judged against whether South Africa helps deliver concrete confidence-building moves rather than applause from the sidelines. The optics around Alaska were striking, a US president publicly engaging the Kremlin despite months of global tension, and a Russian president eager to show direct lines to Washington still exist. That instantly raises two questions for South Africa. First, will Pretoria leverage BRICS ties to translate between Western security concerns and Russian demands, or risk being seen as echoing one side's talking points? Second, can South Africa use this moment to lower its own geopolitical risk, stabilizing trade, investment flows, and its role in supply chains, by demonstrating it can help calm storms rather than amplify them? Diplomacy cannot vaporize hard realities. Front lines will not redraw themselves because leaders met. Any sustainable settlement will hinge on verifiable security guarantees, phased withdrawals or freezes, and some formula for territory, sovereignty, and reconstruction that neither side wants to debate in public first. That is why talk of a direct Putin-Zelenskyy session matters. It is the only forum that can test whether proposals have enough political oxygen to survive contact with domestic audiences. Trump's claim that he is brokering such a meeting raises expectations. Moscow's caution about formats lowers them again. South Africa should read both impulses as signals to prepare discreet, technical contributions rather than deliver grand speeches. A pragmatic South African playbook would start with quiet convening power tied to credibility. Instead of a splashy summit, propose a focused working channel with 3 narrow deliverables: de-escalation steps that can be monitored, humanitarian and prisoner exchanges that build trust quickly, and a framework for phased sanctions relief tied to compliance metrics rather than political mood. South Africa could add value by drafting templates for third-party verification using African Union and United Nations mechanisms, helping structure escrow arrangements for reconstruction funds, and mobilizing development finance for civilian infrastructure once guns fall silent. None of that requires choosing sides, it requires choosing outcomes. There is a domestic calculus too. South Africa's economy is still wrestling with weak growth and fragile investor sentiment, and foreign policy missteps carry real costs. No one in government wants a sanctions scare, trade shock, or capital flight. Being seen as a solution seeker helps blunt the narrative that Pretoria courts controversy without counting consequences. The presidency's careful tone after speaking to Putin, keep talking, push compromise, signals engagement without triumphalism. Critics at home and abroad will nonetheless scrutinize every move. Opposition parties may ask whether non-alignment drifts into indulgence of Moscow. Others will accuse the government of chasing influence while service delivery crises mount at home. The answer lies in execution. If Pretoria helps shepherd tangible humanitarian relief, secures even small de-escalation steps, or keeps channels alive when tempers flare, the foreign policy dividend becomes hard to dismiss. If not, the briefing fades as just another headline. Viewers should watch for a few concrete indicators. One is whether a Putin-Zelenskyy meeting actually lands on the calendar and on what terms. Another is whether the Kremlin and the White House agree on a structure for talks that includes independent verification and phase steps, a sign that both sides are thinking beyond optics. A third is whether South Africa, alongside other BRICS or African states, is asked to host technical working groups or provide specific guarantees. A fourth is whether Pretoria's language shifts from generalities about compromise to specifics about corridors, monitoring, and timelines. Each signal tells us whether this is moving from theater to substance. It also matters how information has flowed. The first public note came from the South African presidency, emphasizing alignment on the need for peace and continued contact. International reporting framed Ramaphosa as part of a broader circle Putin briefed after Alaska, while US and European outlets focused on whether Trump can land a direct Putin-Zelenskyy session and how far Moscow might go on security guarantees. The narratives differ, but the common thread is movement, cautious, contested, but real. For South Africans, the takeaway is simple. This is a rare diplomatic window where a middle power can prove relevance. If South Africa helps push even one confidence-building measure from paper to practice, the payoff is reputational and economic, steadier ties with Washington, preserved trust with Moscow, and renewed respect from partners who prefer bridges over bullhorns. If it stumbles, critics will say Pretoria traded precious political capital for photo ops. The difference will be decided in the next few months by quiet, technical work, phone calls, drafts, verification schemes, not by podiums. We will keep the focus on delivery over drama. If you value clear, unflinching coverage of South Africa's role on the world stage, subscribe to SA Unfiltered, like this video, and tell us in the comments which concrete step Pretoria should push for first: humanitarian corridors, a verifiable ceasefire pilot, or a framework for phase sanctions relief tied to compliance. Your view helps shape what we press leaders to deliver.